On the wedding day, the wedding limousine picked up the wrong person, bringing her idealized love, David, to the venue instead of the groom. I had to take a taxi to get there myself, arriving only a few minutes late. Impatiently, she explained, "Who told you to mess up the wedding limousine arrangements? He was just trying to help you out of kindness. You don't have to thank him, but how can you turn around and blame others?" Meeting the mocking look in the eyes of her idealized love, I knew this was all his doing. But unlike before, I didn't make a scene. Instead, I turned and left. They didn't know her company was in trouble and needed me to stabilize it. But this time, I wouldn't help her anymore. "If you hadn't messed up the wedding limousine arrangements, why would I have let David take your place and complete the wedding?" Sarah's voice was utterly cold, her exquisite makeup unable to hide her disdain. I opened my mouth, about to explain it wasn't my fault. For days, I had been staying up late to finish the company's project proposal. Despite this, the wedding was the top priority in my eyes. Weeks ago, I had planned everything out, checking it 3 times to make sure there were no mistakes. The wedding limousine picking up the wrong person was clearly intentional. Seeing this, David quickly tugged on Sarah's hand, his voice sounding wronged. "Sarah, I'm not feeling well, my head is spinning. Please don't be angry, your fiancé certainly didn't mean to do it." In just a few words, he shifted the blame onto me. Meeting his challenging gaze, I instantly understood that this was absolutely his doing. Just as I opened my mouth, Sarah impatiently cut me off, saying, "Can't you see how much trouble David went through because of you? The wedding's off, so what? We can just do it again later. We still have to go mingle with the guests in a bit. You came from somewhere, just go back there. Don't stay here and be an eyesore." After saying this, she took David's hand and protectively led him towards a room upstairs. I stood there stunned, watching David secretly glance back and give me a mocking smile. In that moment, I couldn't describe how I felt. It was as if my deep affection for Sarah had been drained from my body. I should have rushed forward and argued with her like I used to, explaining that I didn't do this. Instead, I stood detached on the sidelines, numbly touching my heart. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind, finally settling into a quiet sense of relief. For this wedding, I had started preparing months in advance. Everything from the decorations, the guest seating arrangements, Sarah's wedding jewelry, big or small, I was in charge. At the same time, Sarah's company ran into trouble, and I was the one handling it. I was so busy that I only got 4 hours of sleep a night, working tirelessly and feeling exhausted. The wedding limousine issue only caused a delay of a few minutes, but by the time I rushed to the venue, Sarah had already chosen to hold the ceremony with another man. Even then, she still blamed everything on me. She couldn't learn to love me, and she would never cherish me. If that was the case, there seemed to be no reason for me to keep trying. I took a car home alone and began packing my things little by little. During the time I lived with Sarah, I had very few possessions. Just a few changes of clothes and a set of office equipment were all I owned. I silently walked into Sarah's room, wanting to take back the engagement ring I had given her. The moment I opened the closet, I was momentarily stunned. The closet was full of clothes, but they were all men's suits. I looked at a couple casually and found they were 2 sizes smaller than mine. In an instant, I realized this entire closet of suits belonged to David. In the corner of the closet was the ring box I had given Sarah for the engagement ring. It looked like it had been tossed in carelessly, the corners of the box were chipped. David's clothes were neatly organized, but the ring I gave her was thrown aside. At this point, what was there left for me to misunderstand? Love and not loving were so obvious. The front door opened from the outside with a creak. Sarah's cold voice rang out, "What are you doing here? Who let you into my room?" She ran in, furious, panicked, and angry. "I just told you to go home, not to touch my things." I was still holding the engagement ring for her when she snatched it away unexpectedly. Sarah looked at the open closet, froze for a moment, and her initially angry tone softened. David's dry cleaner near his place was broken, so I just brought them over to wash for him. Listening to her rare explanation, my heart didn't stir at all. I nodded faintly, glanced at the ring box in her hand, and prepared to leave. She frowned, blocking my path. "Why aren't you saying anything? I just explained everything. Are you still angry about the wedding?" I was much taller than her. From my perspective, I could clearly see the hickey she was trying to hide on the back of her neck. It was bright red, probably just given. Looking at her aggressive demeanor, I suddenly felt a wave of nausea. "Don't you think you're being incredibly hypocritical?" Sarah froze, a look of bewilderment crossing her beautiful face for the first time. "Let's break up. This is pointless." These two sentences caused her to stand still, seemingly completely confused. Sarah was a pampered daughter of privilege, with a good family background, high education, and beautiful looks. I had known since childhood that she wasn't short of suitors. Such a woman, with extremely high standards, how could she tolerate being insulted like this? Unexpectedly, she didn't lose her temper at me again. We stood in a stalemate for a while, and then I heard her voice, which could almost be called soft. Are you sick? Or are you feeling unwell somewhere? I'm sure you've just been too tired lately. Rest well at home, don't think about all this nonsense. This alliance is between our families. How can you just call it off? At the mention of the alliance, I suddenly reacted. A hint of mockery entered my gaze as I looked at her. I had thought she had a moment of conscience. Turns out she was just afraid of the losses canceling the alliance would bring her. I let out a sigh, chuckling self-deprecatingly. To think I believed she cared about me even a little. Now it seemed she cared quite a lot about my money. No. The word of refusal had just left my lips when she rushed out of the room. Something happened to David. I have to go back now. You stay home and rest well, I'll be back later. Watching her open the door and leave without hesitation, I was forced to swallow the words I hadn't finished. Because she left in such a hurry, the ring box that had been in her hand fell to the ground again, slowly rolling to my feet. I picked it up from the floor. Looking at the large pink diamond on my hand, I had specifically flown to an auction house overseas to buy it. Just designing the style took considerable effort, and the process took 3 years. Even such a dedication wasn't worth anything in her eyes, just like my true heart, trampled underfoot by her. I threw the ring into the trash can, along with all my love for her, completely gone. Before leaving, I specifically contacted the company's lawyer to draft a contract terminating the alliance. Everything was ready, and I left the house I had lived in for several years without looking back. That night, a friend texted me asking if I wanted to get together. I readily agreed. In the past, because of Sarah's presence, I never wasted time socializing with friends. The times I wanted to spend alone with her, she would often leave because something happened to David. Now, I no longer had to consider her. Arriving at the gathering, people were milling about. My childhood friend Emily looked at me in surprise. You don't have to be with your FIA. And see today? I shook my head, saying calmly, yeah, we broke up. This sentence was like dropping a bombshell, and I knew what they were thinking. For years, my love for Sarah was well known, and now that we were finally about to make it official, we suddenly broke up. Who wouldn't be surprised? Thankfully, Emily quickly recovered and poured me a drink. Let's not talk about it. If it's over, it's over. I'm sure you'll find someone better. The atmosphere at the table became lively again, perhaps afraid I'd feel sad thinking about the past. I smiled, feeling genuinely comforted. After a few drinks, I got up to go to the restroom to take a break. Unexpectedly, I ran into Sarah and David at the entrance. David's face was red like a ripe apple, and he leaned bonelessly into Sarah's embrace. Sarah just smiled dotingly and stroked his hair. I had only noticed them by chance and was about to leave when David called my name. Mr. Miller, what are you doing here? Then, he shrank back timidly. Sarah's been working so hard with socializing. How do you still have time to come out and play? These two short sentences made Sarah even more displeased. Didn't I tell you to rest at home? How did you follow me here? Today was a day off. Who had such influence that Sarah would come out to socialize? It didn't take much thought to know this was just another one of her excuses. Seeing how intimate they were, I scoffed, not wanting to deal with either of them. Therefore, I didn't spare them another glance and turned to leave. Sarah froze, then shouted loudly, "Who said you could leave? Come back." Just then, the private room door was pushed open. Emily walked out. She looked at me, then at the two people not far away, and seemed to think of a plan as she approached me. Because we had known each other for over a decade, I understood her intention almost instantly. Why aren't you coming back? I'm already drunk. Even as a joke, she kept a good distance from me, not being overly formal. You're like they were. I said with a slight smile, it's fine, I'll be right back. Just a single sentence, but Sarah's expression instantly changed. Robert, who is she? David was almost pushed aside, his face flushed red, and he indignantly said, Mr. Miller, how can you do something like this in front of Sarah? Emily scoffed and said, what, is it one rule for you, another for everyone else? Seeing that the argument was about to escalate, I quietly said to her, you go ahead, I'll be back in a bit. Emily rolled her eyes at Sarah and then nonchalantly returned to the private room. Seeing Emily disappear, Sarah's expression finally improved, and then she said softly to the person in her arms, "David, you go back first, I have something to tell him." David was a little displeased but still nodded and said, "Okay, I'll wait for you outside." The hallway finally became quiet, and I could only hear Sarah's cold voice, "If you're trying to make me jealous, you don't need to put on a show like this." I stared at her face, unable to describe the feeling for a moment. "I won't be involved in your company matters anymore." She narrowed her eyes at me for a moment, then said with disdain, "Is that so? I was planning to let David take your place anyway. It's good you're not coming, it saves me the trouble of one more procedure. You're still the same as before, trying to attract my attention with these things. I'm truly disappointed in you." Sarah was still as arrogant and self-centered as before. I said with a light chuckle, "Then I won't bother you. Since we happen to meet, you might as well sign this contract." During this time, I had presented countless contracts for Sarah to sign. Because her company had been in trouble recently, it needed collaboration to boost cash flow and fill the gaps, otherwise, it could lead to irreversible consequences. I had put in effort and energy doing these things for her, but she didn't even spare me a glance. Sure enough, when she saw the word contract, she signed it without thinking. Looking at me, her tone softened. "Oh, it was about this. You could have just waited for me at home. I only brought David out today because of company matters. Don't overthink it. I'll take you to City Hall to get married tomorrow." I took back the document, a sigh of relief in my heart, and said coldly, "No need. I don't want to see you." Just as she was about to get angry, her phone suddenly rang. I heard her immediately change her tone, speaking softly, Okay, I'll be right out. It's windy outside, you can wait for me in the car." After saying that, she glanced at me and hurried away in her high heels. I looked at the contract in my hand and smiled softly. This wasn't a contract for collaboration, but a contract terminating the alliance between the two parties. As soon as we had confirmed our wedding date, I had given Sarah this assurance. No matter what happened, as long as she was my wife, I would use all my money to support her. I wanted her to know that even though we were getting married for an alliance, I loved her and was willing to give her everything. Originally, we should have gotten our marriage license early, but on the day we were supposed to go to City Hall, David got food poisoning and was admitted to the hospital. She then ran off without a word to take care of another man. I waited outside City Hall all day, but she never showed up. It wasn't until nightfall that she finally spared a thought to text me, "David is sick, I have to stay with him. We'll get married later." Even though I was a little unhappy, I didn't blame her. Now, I was just grateful. Thankfully, we didn't get married back then, or we would have been inextricably tied together. Thinking of Sarah's beautiful face, I felt nothing in my heart anymore. Whether Sarah came home that night, I didn't know. The next morning, she texted me, "David had another relapse because of the stress and is sick again. I can't come to City Hall today." I glanced at it and classified it as spam, like a junk text. 5 hours had passed since I saw the message. During this time, she hadn't offered any explanation. I smiled, already used to her behavior, but the thought still felt sickening. After packing some things, I went to a collaborating company to discuss a major partnership. Originally, I had given this opportunity to Sarah's company. It would have helped her solve her funding issues. But yesterday, I changed my mind. Sarah didn't deserve it. I had a good discussion with the head of the other company and quickly signed the contract. The moment the contract was signed, the conference room door was violently pushed open. Sarah, dressed in a sharp suit, was followed by David, also formally dressed. In an instant, David exclaimed in surprise, "Mr. Miller, what are you doing here? Isn't this our company's partnership?" "This?" I rolled my eyes, already annoyed with David. "What does it have to do with you?" Sarah's face darkened, and she shielded David behind her, aggressively addressing me. "I only postponed getting married. Why are you bullying David? He's innocent." The collaborating company's head understood what was happening at a glance. He looked at me and said politely, "Mr. Miller, I'll be leaving now. I'll send the follow-up partnership details to your secretary's email." I nodded. David, however, turned red-eyed the moment he heard that. "Robert, do you know how late Sarah stayed up every day for this partnership? You don't care about her." "I do. If you're just trying to push me out, I'll leave, but don't bully her." My gaze finally fell on them again. I said calmly, "Did you have some tea? The smell is quite strong." David's face immediately flushed crimson. Sarah couldn't stand it any longer and said coldly, "I understand what you mean. As long as you give us back the partnership, I can go to City Hall with you this afternoon. All you want is to marry me, isn't it? Why bother others?" Her tone was as arrogant as ever, even when making a deal, as if she were bestowing a favor upon me. Once, I was indeed drawn to her arrogance. But now, I didn't want to pay for her coldness anymore. I chuckled lightly. Did you forget? We already canceled the alliance. When did I cancel it? Don't talk nonsense. From Sarah's tightly furrowed brows, I sensed she was starting to panic. I took out the document she had signed with her own hand last night and placed it on the table. The partnership was originally arranged by me. I can give it to whoever I want. Besides, didn't we break up yesterday? The 4 words "cancel alliance" on the paper stung Sarah's eyes. The woman who had always been calm and composed was furious for the first time, shouting, "Is this from yesterday? How dare you trick me?" I said lazily, "You didn't pay attention yourself. Who can you blame?" Perhaps she had never seen me like this. Sarah was momentarily speechless. Her gaze towards me was filled with mixed emotions, even turning slightly red. Then, I heard her trembling voice, "Robert, do you want to leave me that badly? I remember, when you confessed to me back then, you said you would love me forever and ever." I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of amusement in my heart. "Sarah, you're wrong. The one I loved was never the current you." She stood there staring at me, her eyes empty and sad. David pulled her into his arms and gently comforted her. "It's okay, it's okay. Don't be sad. Sarah, at least you still have me." Sarah didn't resist but didn't follow David's words either. Before leaving, I picked up the document from the side and unexpectedly heard Sarah's voice. "Rob, you know I still love you." Her voice was very low, even fragile, but I didn't look back, just kept walking forward. Of course, I knew Sarah once loved me. If she didn't love me, she wouldn't have bravely run over and hugged me when the pressure of reality made me want to jump off a building. I will always remember that rainy night. The rain splashed on my face, ice cold and bone-chilling. Because I was set up by someone, my company had major operational problems. Although it was just a small company back then, the young me had never suffered such a huge setback. The former employees looked at me strangely. "What kind of boss are you if you can't manage things? A loser who can't even pay wages." Exactly. If I had known he only had this much capability, I would rather die than work for this company. The employees gradually left, leaving an empty office. When I considered ending my life, I fell into a warm embrace. To save me, Sarah climbed 28 floors alone to find me. She was already out of breath but still said gently and firmly, "Rob, don't be afraid, you still have me." At that moment, I swore that no matter what happened in the future, I would love Sarah forever. We should have gotten married and had children happily. Until she met David, a man who depended on her completely. It was then that I realized our feelings had changed, and there was no going back. When I vowed to give her a good life and worked tirelessly at the company, all she needed was David's gentle and meticulous comfort and dependence. My busy work caused her to project all her affection onto another man. This was something I could never tolerate. The story reached this point, a scene of utter devastation. What was love or not love? After all, it was just my one-sided devotion. For several days straight, I didn't run into Sarah and David again. I poured all my energy into my career and achieved good results. After securing the last major deal, I scheduled 3 days off and planned to travel. As soon as I entered the parking garage, my attention was drawn to a black car in front of me. The reason was simple: every man loves cars, and this one was a limited edition, one of only 10 worldwide. I had ordered this car months ago, but on the day I was supposed to pick it up, Sarah sent me away. Andy then gave the car to David. I'll never forget her expression at the time. Gentle, but with a hint of impatience. David never drove a nice car growing up, and he insisted on this one. "You know how he is, he's young. How about I just give you the money, or I can buy you another one?" With her saying that, what could I do? I could only bite back my feelings of being wronged and swallow it down, watching her give the car away. Therefore, seeing this car again, I was momentarily lost in thought. Sarah parked and poked her head out of the car, waving at me. "Rob, I'm here." Right after she finished speaking, she got out of the car, smiling as she handed me the car keys. "You like this car, don't you? I got it back from David, it's yours now." I didn't take the car keys, and her hand hung in the air. After a while, she stopped smiling. "Are you still angry? I came specifically to apologize to you this time." She turned back to the car and brought out a huge bouquet of roses, each flower vibrant and beautiful. "I'm sorry about the wedding. I've already lectured David, and from now on, you'll definitely be my priority in everything." She said this still full of confidence, a pleasant smile on her beautiful face. "I don't want it. My cold reply made her stiffen for a moment. Quickly, she forcefully shoved the bouquet into my hands. Didn't you used to love roses the most? I specifically bought them for you. I started sneezing uncontrollably, my nose turning red. Get them away. I'm allergic to roses. The word allergic seemed to trigger a memory for her, and she quickly moved the roses away. But I had already inhaled the scent of the pollen, and the sneezing wouldn't stop. She looked panicked, tears shimmering in her eyes. I remembered wrong. I wasn't. I didn't mean to hurt you. By the time I finally recovered, Sarah was overflowing with guilt, even ignoring her phone which rang over a dozen times. A long time ago, I had told Sarah I was allergic to roses. She had made a note of it then, and afterward, the flowers she gave me always avoided roses. The one who liked roses was David. He loved all bright red and purple colors. Sarah had given him many kinds of roses under the pretense of rewarding him for work. The roses in the car today were just the most ordinary kind. Perhaps she hadn't even realized it, but she treated me and David completely differently. How could someone like her possibly think she could win me back? I no longer wanted to stay with her and immediately decided to drive away. Unexpectedly, she stood in front of my car, blocking it. For the first time, the arrogant Sarah spoke in a tone close to pleading, "Rob, don't go, please." Her phone rang again. She looked at the caller ID impatiently. After much hesitation, she actually answered the call. "I have something going on here, I'll be back later, Just go to the hospital and put some ointment on it yourself. I'm not a doctor, I can't help you." Once she finally hung up, I floored the gas pedal and sped off. Sarah was startled and fell onto the side of the road from the inertia, her simple white dress getting stained with dirt. "Robert, are you trying to hit me?" I impatiently rolled down the window. "You're the one constantly wasting my time. Not everyone has time to play games with you." "Sarah, enough is enough. We're over." After saying that, I sped away. Looking in the rearview mirror, Sarah was still staring at me blankly, like a silent statue. I felt utterly disgusted. If she already had David, why did she insist on disrupting my life? She threw the roses on the ground, the beautiful buds fell into the dust, quickly becoming useless waste. Just like our relationship, which could never return to the beginning. The screen of my phone suddenly lit up. I looked down, it was a message from Sarah. "Robert, don't regret this. I gave you a way out and an opportunity, it's your own fault you didn't cherish it." Looking through the full screen of chat history, most of the messages were from me to her. The messages she sent me were few and far between, with hardly any replies. Only in the last few days had they gradually increased. But I had seen her talking with another man late into the night. She simply hadn't chosen me. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I added all of Sarah's contact information to the trash bin. The 3 days I spent traveling passed exceptionally quickly. When I finally returned to the company, there was a stack of papers on my CEO's office desk. I picked them up and couldn't help but frown. It was a wedding invitation. Sarah was inviting me to her and David's wedding. My secretary quietly peeked her head in and asked, "Mr. Miller, your schedule is very full these days. If you plan to go, I can arrange your time in advance." I casually tossed the invitation aside and said, "No need, I'm not going." Being immersed in work makes you forget everything. So it wasn't until a few days later that I saw their wedding livestream trending online. It was a grand wedding, much more elaborate than ours would have been. I only watched the beginning before I couldn't be bothered to watch any further. Therefore, when I saw Sarah's company name with a collaborating party, I instinctively removed their eligibility to participate. The day my secretary informed her, she rushed to my office without hesitation. "Robert, by what right did you remove our company's eligibility?" As she said this, she wasn't angry but smiling playfully. "Are you jealous? Actually, I never married David, it was just a fake wedding." She leaned close to me, the faint fragrance of her hair tickling my nose. Sarah was wearing the same dress she had worn years ago when I confessed my love. The light white fringed dress made her look very gentle. What should have been a pleasant scent now felt uncomfortable to smell. Seeing her pressing closer, I impatiently called for security. "Who let her in? Get her out quickly." Her CALM expression cracked instantly, and she said incredulously, "You want to kick me out?" The security guard escorted her downstairs, and I followed. David appeared out of nowhere and pulled Sarah, trying to lead her away. "We're already married. Why are you still hooking up with this man?" Sarah glanced at him, annoyed. "It was just a fake wedding, we didn't get married. Don't interfere here." David hadn't expected her to expose this in front of me, and his face flushed crimson. Seeing that I didn't speak, Sarah bit her lip, seemingly feeling deeply humiliated, and ran off. David didn't chase after her but said with a dark expression, "I need to talk to you." Originally, I wasn't planning to waste any time on him, but at that moment, seeing his awkward expression, I became interested. We walked to a nearby coffee shop, and David put on an expression of disgust. "Sarah and I are married. You need to stop interfering in our relationship." I slowly sipped my coffee, finding it amusing. Which I saw me harassing her. She's the one who kept coming to find me. I'm completely annoyed. David was about to retort but couldn't speak. He had indeed witnessed Sarah coming to find me just now. "You were the other man who pushed me out. How can you be sure Sarah won't find someone else later?" Just as I finished speaking, my phone screen suddenly lit up. Emily sent me a text, "Rob, wanna hang out?" Only then did I realize it was her birthday today. After paying at the counter, I went to buy a gift and drove to the agreed location. Emily was wearing a champagne-colored cocktail dress today, her face exquisitely beautiful. I handed her the gift, and she said with a smile, "Rob, I have something to tell you." I followed her to the corner by the fountain, feeling a strange sensation. "Can I have a chance to pursue you?" Suddenly hearing this, I was momentarily stunned. Then, I shook my head. "Emily, I don't want to start a new relationship right now." I thought she would be disappointed, but unexpectedly, she curved her eyes and smiled playfully. "Yeah, that's why I'm pursuing you. I didn't expect you to get together with me." I sighed, feeling a bit helpless. "Alright, it's your birthday, you win." Even though I really didn't want to be in a relationship right now, Emily was always a special person. When we returned to the party, it was as if nothing had happened between us. After the party, she offered to drive me home. Since I had drunk a little and it was too late to find a rideshare, I agreed. "Do you know when I started liking you?" I shook my head. How could I possibly know? If I had known, I wouldn't have been so flustered when she confessed to me. I was about to say something else when a white light flashed in the distance. Then, there was a loud crash. Emily had swerved the car, avoiding the collision with the large truck. I was fine in the passenger seat, but she lay unconscious on the seat, a stream of blood gradually flowing from her forehead. I quickly pulled her out of the car. Soon, the police car and ambulance arrived. Fortunately, Emily was sent to the hospital in time, otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The police quickly detained the truck driver. He was entirely at fault for driving the wrong way, but he didn't have any money. Cornered, he said to the police, "I didn't mean to do it. Someone paid me to do it." After some interrogation, David's name was revealed. It turned out that David had gone crazy that day, believing Sarah would cheat no matter what, and she absolutely refused to marry him. In his frenzy, he thought Sarah still had feelings for me. He paid the truck driver to drive the wrong way, aiming to kill me. He figured he could just bail the driver out with some money afterward, but he never expected Emily to sacrifice herself to save me when faced with danger. In the end, I was unharmed. Emily was taken to the emergency room. The truth came out, and David was forcibly taken in to see you. Study. Sarah originally had some sympathy for this man, but after her own company fell into chaos, she had no time to bother with him. Especially after hearing that he had attempted to murder me, she directly gave up on using money to reduce his sentence. I already hated those two to the bone. After returning to the company, I directly crippled Sarah's company, leaving her no chance of recovery. Thankfully, Emily survived the disaster. These days, I stayed by her bedside day and night, praying for her safety. Heaven seemed to have heard my prayers. After a week in bed, she finally woke up. Looking at her pale face, I felt both remorse and pity. "Emily, how could you be so foolish? You shouldn't have swerved. I'm the one who hurt you." After saying this, my eyes welled up, and a tear fell. Emily raised her slender wrist and wiped away my tears. She said, "It was my own choice. What does it have to do with you? You saved me before too. I'm just happy I could protect you." I was startled. I couldn't remember ever saving her. After talking for a while, I suddenly realized. Over a decade ago, Emily's parents were always busy, and she had to play in the yard by herself every day. I saw her loneliness back then and always invited her over to my house. Slowly, we went through elementary school, middle school, and high school together. She was always by my side. On the day my company went bankrupt, she tried everything she could, running around to get loans and cash flow. She finally found an opportunity and climbed up to the 28th floor rooftop, only to find me already embracing Sarah. Disheartened, she chose to give up and silently wished me well. It wasn't until I was broken and wounded by my previous relationship that she mustered the courage to approach me again. As we talked about this, I saw a sparkling tear fall from the corner of her eye. In that instant, my heart felt like it had been hit hard, beating rapidly. Emily, I have a different answer to the question why. Oh, you asked me last time. What? Let's be together. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to say this. She was clearly taken aback. Then, she smiled wryly and shook her head. No need. I don't want you to be with me just because I saved you. I shook my head and said softly, of course not. I believe I've fallen in love with you. You deserve it. Silence filled the hospital room. Just as I thought she had fallen asleep, Emily said tremblingly, am I dreaming? I gently hugged her and kissed her forehead. No. When you get out of the hospital, I'll propose to you properly. The future I envisioned finally arrived. Being with Emily was better than I could have imagined. We watched movies together, got a pet, and did countless small things with each other like any loving couple. As Christmas Eve approached, snow fell from the sky. We were out shopping when I suddenly saw a street stall ahead selling many beautiful caramel apples. Looking closer, it was Sarah. After her company went bankrupt, she was apparently making a living by running a street stall. Sarah saw me too, but her lips just mumbled. She couldn't say a word. Emily went and bought a caramel apple, happily linking her arm through mine. Rob, the caramel apple is so good. I smiled and playfully tapped her nose, no longer paying attention to Sarah. Because I knew, it was all over. My life, my real life, was slowly beginning.